Hi and welcome. This video is going to cover the day in the life of an entry-level Agile business analyst on my team, specifically one assigned to a single product. The goal of this video is to help you learn more about the job and give you some ideas on the work you might be doing as an entry-level business analyst. A quick reminder that most of my content comes from what you want to learn more about. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll either answer you there or create a new video to answer your questions. Also, if you happen to find my content useful, let me know by giving me a thumbs up. First things first, I am not an entry level business analyst. I manage a team of business analysts, some of whom are entry level. The daily routine of a business analyst will vary pretty significantly based on the individual, where they live, the company they work for, etc. So, for those reasons, I will focus on the actual types of work you'll be doing as a business analyst instead of like what time I choose to wake up, what I eat for breakfast, and how I get to work. One critical thing to remember when thinking about the work of a business analyst is that almost always a business analyst exists in the context of a large, complex organization. The role of a business analyst is to help navigate that complexity. As an entry level business analyst in an agile environment, one way you might end up working is a BA aligned to a single product. In my space, that likely means you are working on the customer portal. The customer portal is one of the more complex applications in my area of responsibility, and that's because we are reliant on data from several upstream applications to perform pretty much every activity. A lot of those activity means we're sending the data downstream to other applications for processing. And then finally, we have multiple customer groups using our application. This means we have stakeholders and process owners from upstream applications, downstream applications, and all the different customer groups who we facilitate activity for and are impacted by the changes that we make in our application. As an entry level business analyst in this space in particular, we typically assign you a specific stakeholder group to manage the functions, the data, and any new feature requests that might come from that group. Most of your daily activity is really going to fall into four primary categories, and that's going to be meeting with the business team, meeting with the development team, conducting and documenting analysis work, and getting feedback. The first category is meeting with the business teams. As an owner of a specific stakeholder group, this will mean meeting with stakeholders from that group, obviously, as well as the product owner of the application. Because the space is so complex with so many stakeholder groups, the product owner often relies on business analysts to do a lot of the preliminary information gathering or facilitating discussions that they can't be a part of. These meetings could be meetings to get decisions and clarify things that the development team might already be working on, or it might be to gather requirements for a new feature. The next is working with the development team. In my department, our developers are all offshore and in a different time zone, so the morning is a critical time for the daily meetings where developers and BAs clarify requirements and make sure that essentially the right things are being developed. Sometimes this might mean developers asking you to go back to the business and clarify a specific point on how a feature that's being worked on should work, or it might be you getting clarity from the developers on how feasible a new functionality might be, or maybe some of the different implementation options that are available. The third category is actually conducting and documenting that analysis work. Most of the BA deliverables you hear about come from this space because this is literally where the analysis and business analysis happens. At the end of the day, all the analysis work done by a business analyst is with the purpose of helping the team move forward in the best way possible. Some examples of that analysis work might be conducting research on error handling best practices, presenting that to a product owner to help them to decide how to handle error scenarios for a feature that might be under development, and then to document that as acceptance criteria. On my team, that means using given when then or the given when then format, sometimes referred to as Gherkin, so the development team knows exactly what is expected from the system. Another example is potentially doing some data analysis to understand how many users might be impacted by building or not building a feature, or how much money might be gained or lost by building or not building a feature. This typically helps a product owner prioritize or deprioritize features to ensure that the team is working on the most valuable items. One final example of analysis work might be creating a process flow diagram illustrating all the different decision points, business rules, and data sources required to facilitate a new feature so that all the relevant stakeholders and decision makers are consulted. Finally, the last category, which is really critical for an entry level business analyst, is getting feedback on the analysis work that you're doing. On my team, that could come from one of my senior BAs, or it could come from your manager, which would be me, obviously. The goal here is to make sure you're really just covering all your bases, utilizing the best techniques for the situation, and not missing any key data points. This advice usually comes from domain knowledge or just experience with past successes or failures. The goal here really is to ensure that the new BAs have the greatest chance of success. These 4 activity groups don't have to happen in any particular order and are kind of usually happening all the time, depending on the development methodology, the makeup of the team, and the variety of the stakeholders. On my team, we typically start by assigning stakeholder groups that are a little bit less complex and less mission critical. And as the BA gains experience, we allow them to take on greater responsibility, which might mean stakeholders who bring in higher revenue, are more difficult, or are just more complex in general. I hope that gave you a helpful idea of what kinds of work you might be doing as an entry-level business analyst. If you found that useful, give me a thumbs up. If you have any additional questions, let me know in the comments and I'll either answer you there or create a whole new video to answer your questions. So subscribe to see those questions get answered, and thanks for watching.